Howdy again everyone. Now, a year or two ago, I was getting endless questions from people in comment sections asking me what I knew about a new 50mm DGDN art lens from Sigma. It was like some kind of weird in-joke that I wasn't aware of. Weird. Well, I can finally make all those people happy with the announcement of the lens of their dreams, Sigma's new 50mm f1.4 DGDN art. Its predecessor, the 50mm f1.4 DG HSM art lens for digital SLR cameras, made a big splash when it came out with its excellent image quality and good value for money. Sigma are hoping to emulate that success and make the lens a little smaller and even sharper in this new version for mirrorless cameras. It'll be available on L-mount cameras and Sony's E-mount cameras, full frame or APS-C, and it'll cost $850 in the US before sales tax, or £850 here in the UK, including VAT. I'd like to thank Sigma UK for letting me borrow an early production copy of this lens for testing, although as usual, this is a totally independent review. Who doesn't love a fast 50mm lens on a full-frame camera? They offer a beautiful, natural, standard perspective, neither wide-angle nor telephoto, plus it's possible to get beautifully out-of-focus backgrounds at f1.4, not to mention how much easier it is to shoot indoors at such a bright aperture, or in other dark situations. Let's take a look at the build quality of this 50mm lens. The lens is quite big really, although its body feels gorgeous, very solid, smooth and tightly assembled, a mixture of metal and heavy duty plastics. It weighs 670 grams, about 1.5 pounds, so it's also on the heavy side. The lens is advertised as being quite well weather sealed, and it does indeed have a slight weather sealing gasket at the rear mount. There are a lot of control points on the lens too, which is always handy. It saves you having to fiddle around changing things in the camera's options menu. First comes the aperture ring, which can be set to click nice and confidently every third of a stop, or it can be set to turn smoothly, which yields some lovely smooth aperture changes when video making. It can also be locked in or out of automatic mode, which is a feature I often find useful. We also get a manual focus switch and a focus hold button on the side. Then comes a very large, rubberized manual focus ring, which turns very smoothly and just a little heavily. As you can see here, the lens exhibits some moderate focus breathing, zooming in a fair bit as you focus more closely. Now, let's see about the autofocus motor. It works quickly, accurately and silently here. Very impressive for an f1.4 50mm lens, that's just about as fast as you can get. The lens comes with a nice carry case and a very good quality lockable hood with a rubber trim on the inner edge. It has a 72mm filter thread size and does not have image stabilization. Overall, this is definitely a lens with a bit of size and weight to it, but the wonderful build quality and excellent autofocus make it really stand out. The lens is very enjoyable to handle. Okay, let's take a look at image quality now. We'll start by testing it on a full frame camera, my 42MP Sony a7R III. In-camera corrections turned on for this test. In the middle of the image, right away at f1.4, we see absolute razor sharpness and excellent contrast. Colours are very slightly warm, and there's just a tiny hint of colour fringing on contrasting edges here, but that goes away the moment you stop down the aperture a little. Let's take a look in the image corners. They look fantastically sharp too, although contrast is a bit lower, and we're also seeing a little darkness, even with those in-camera corrections. Stop down to f2 for more brightness and excellent contrast again in those corners. The lens stays this sharp down to f11, where a touch of softness is emerging due to diffraction, and f16 looks a bit softer again. Overall, it's a brilliant performance here on full frame. 50mm lenses don't really come much sharper than this, and it's definitely an improvement over the original version for digital SLR cameras, having considerably sharper corners. Well, let's see how the lens performs on APS-C now by testing it on my little Sony a5100 with its 24MP cropped sensor. At f1.4, image quality in the middle is very good, but we do see just a touch of ghosting and colour fringing on contrasting edges. The corner image quality is a little softer again. Stop down just to f2 though, and those corners become excellent, and the lens is razor sharp back in the middle now too. The lens stays this sharp down to f8. f11 and f16 see softness creeping in due to diffraction. So that's a very good performance on APS-C too, although you need to stop down to f2 for the punchiest looking images. Okay, let's turn off in-camera corrections now and see about vignetting and distortion. Without corrections, the lens clearly projects quite a lot of pincushion distortion. At f1.4, vignetting is very strong. Here's f2, f2.8 and f4. It's only really at f5.6 that those corners properly brighten up, so you'll definitely want to use your corrections with this lens. The lens's minimum focus distance is about 45 cm, just average for a 50mm optic. Close-up image quality still sees some sharpness here, but it's rather masked over by colour fringing and low contrast. Just stop down to f2 for excellent contrast and sharpness to make a return though. Let's see how the lens works against bright lights now. It's quite a good performance here. A spot of flaring is clearly visible at certain points, but this is certainly better than average for a 50mm lens. While we're working in the dark, let's take a look at coma levels. It's good news here too. Just a little smudge on bright light is visible at f1.4, which quickly goes away when you stop down to f2. For those of you who like sunstars though, there's some bad news. Even stop down to f16, there's very little to see here. Next, let's look at the quality of this lens's bokeh. Aside from the usual cat's eye shape to bokeh balls in the corners at f1.4, there are no problems here at all. Bokeh looks consistently lovely and smooth without any apparent issues. And finally, related to bokeh, let's see about longitudinal chromatic aberration. At f1.4, it's pretty visible unfortunately here on bokeh highlights. Stop down to f2 though, and it begins to go away, and at f2.8 and f4, it's gone. Overall, although it's a little big and heavy, still, this is a new 50mm f1.4 lens with pretty supreme build and image quality, even sharper than its admittedly aging cousin for digital SLR cameras. You're getting a good deal for your $850 here, as it has few optical problems, tons of sharpness, and beautiful soft looking bokeh, as well as fast autofocus, great contrast and good colours, and useful features for video work. It's pretty much what everyone was hoping for, I think, so I reckon it has to come. Highly recommended. Have you ever thought to yourself, boy, Chris just doesn't create enough content for me? Or ever wondered if you can support this channel in the work I do? Or even thought both of those things? Well, the answer is in the description down below in the form of my Patreon page, where channel supporters can get all kinds of exclusive bonus content, as well as a warm, fuzzy feeling inside for helping to keep things trucking on in my lens testing laboratory here. Thanks to all my current supporters for all your help, and ciao for now.